Today we will be exploring the real history behind Islam. How did it come to be and where it is headed? Was it really founded on blood and violence? Was Muhammad a warlord? Did the Islamic Empire come to be through violence? All of these questions will be explored by going through the timeline of Islam. In 570 CE, Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born in Mecca. He comes from a noble family, the Hashim clan of the Quraysh tribe in Mecca, setting the stage for his profound influence on the development of Islam. In 610 CE, at the age of 40, Muhammad is visited by the angel Gabriel while on retreat in a cave near Mecca. The angel recites to him the first revelations of the Quran and informs him that he is God's prophet. Later, Muhammad is told to call his people to the worship of the one God. Amongst his community, he was well known for his honesty and upright character. Although he was known to be truthful and trustworthy, they reacted with hostility and began to persecute him and his growing following. During one of the many defensive battles Muhammad had, in the very beginning, with a few followers, he tells them that the Muslims will take over the Persian and Byzantine empires. A claim that is similar to the Eskimos saying they will conquer America. For the next 23 years, the Quran started being revealed over the course of that period, until the passing of the Prophet. 622 CE. After enduring persecution in Mecca, Muhammad and his followers migrate to the nearby town of Yathrib, later to be known as Medina, where the people there accepted Islam. This marks the hijra or emigration, and the beginning of the Islamic calendar. In Medina, Muhammad establishes an Islamic state based on the laws revealed in the Quran and the inspired guidance coming to him from God. Eventually he begins to invite other tribes and nations to Islam. Through his stay in Medina, he formed the first constitutions known to mankind that were progressive to that period. During that time, Meccans were constantly persecuting the Muslims residing in Medina, failing miserably. When the Prophet wanted to go to Mecca for pilgrimage, he formed a treaty with the Meccans, but shortly after, the Meccans broke it. Many treacherous actions are committed by those within Medina, who have previously accepted the constitutions and laws laid out. In 624, the Battle of Badr, a defensive battle, was initiated to protect the Muslim and Medina community from the Meccan Quraysh, who aimed to crush the emerging Islamic state in Medina. In 625, the Battle of Uhud was another defensive battle where the Meccans sought revenge against the Muslims after their defeat at Badr. The Muslims defended themselves against the Quraysh's attack. The Battle of the Trench in 627 CE was another defensive campaign where Muslims defended Medina from a large coalition of tribes, known as the Confederates, by digging a trench to prevent their advance. In 628, shortly after the Battle of the Trench, the Battle of Khaybar took place, the stronghold of Khaybar, where the treacherous group plotted against the Muslims with the coalition that was against the Muslims in the Battle of the Trench. The Muslims sought to secure their position and resources, as Khaybar was a significant agricultural and economic center. 630 CE, Muhammad returns to Mecca with a large number of his followers towards the first offensive battle against their persecutors. Although he was in a position of power, knowing how much he was persecuted by Meccans, the Prophet let them go free. He enters the city peacefully, and eventually all its citizens accept Islam. There wasn't much resistance against this offensive. The Prophet clears the idols and images out of the Kaaba and rededicates it to the worship of God alone. It was followed by the Battle of Hunayn, which was to neutralize any threats from the remaining tribes of Hawazin and Thaqif. It was followed by the Siege of Taif, which was the last stronghold of enemies, and they forfeited. The total number of casualties of all the battles that the Prophet was involved in, whether defensive or offensive, were less than 1,000 from both the Muslims and the other side combined. 633 CE, Muhammad gathers the people around, informing them that he has completed their religion. He dies after a prolonged illness due to poison. The Muslim community elects his father-in-law and close associate, Abu Bakr, as caliph, or successor. A series of military campaigns called the Ridda Wars were launched over Arabian tribes to reunite them under the banner of Islam, as some tribes were rebellious. Some submitted without confrontation, others resisted. This period also marked the beginning of expansion for the Islamic Empire. Additionally, Abu Bakr oversaw the compilation of the Quran into a single written manuscript with the assistance of the Prophet's companions. The Battle of Yamama in 633 CE, a pivotal conflict between Muslim forces and rebellious tribes, ended in a decisive victory for the Muslims, consolidating Abu Bakr's position as caliph. A year later, Abu Bakr dies, and Umar ibn al-Khattab leads the way to open the gates of Jerusalem, which faced minor resistance. 638 CE Muslims enter the area north of Arabia, known as Sham, including Palestine, which had already been freed, but also Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. This conquest underlined the rapid spread of Islam and its establishment as a political and cultural force. The incorporation of Sham into the Islamic Empire facilitated the Arabization and Islamization of these territories, shaping their future development and contributing to the expansion of Islamic civilization. This expansion also led to profound changes in the region's political and religious landscape, establishing Islamic governance and fostering cultural exchange within the broader Islamic world, thus laying the groundwork for the flourishing of Islamic civilization in subsequent centuries. Most of these conquests had minimal resistance to the Muslims, which is a reason why casualties during these expansions were not as tragic as, for instance, the Crusades. 641 CE Muslims enter Egypt and rout the Byzantine army. One notable aspect of the Muslim conquest of Egypt was the perception among the local population that their arrival represented a liberation from oppressive Byzantine rule. This sentiment was rooted in the discontent and dissatisfaction that many Egyptians felt towards the Byzantine administration, which had imposed heavy taxes, enforced religious policies, and subjected the populace to various forms of oppression. In many instances, the Muslim conquests were relatively bloodless, as local populations, weary of Byzantine rule, often welcomed the Muslim forces as liberators. This was particularly true in Egypt, where the Muslim conquerors were perceived as offering a more tolerant and just alternative to Byzantine rule. As a result, many cities and regions surrendered peacefully to the advancing Muslim armies, with minimal resistance or confrontation. In 655 CE, Islam began its expansion throughout North Africa through a combination of military conquests, trade networks, and missionary efforts. The spread of Islam in the region occurred gradually, with Muslim forces encountering diverse indigenous populations and existing Christian communities. The appeal of Islam's socio-political and cultural message, emphasizing unity, social justice, and equality, resonated with many in North Africa, leading to widespread adoption of the faith. This expansion had profound and lasting effects, including the establishment of Islamic governance, the adoption of Arabic as a dominant language, and the flourishing of Islamic scholarship and culture. Islam served as a unifying force in North Africa, transcending ethnic and linguistic divisions, and contributing to the formation of a distinct Islamic identity in the region. In 661 CE, the assassination of Imam Ali, the final caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate and cousin of the Prophet Muhammad, marked the end of the era of the four righteous caliphs and ushered in a new phase of Islamic history. Ali's death occurred amidst internal strife and conflict, including the First Fitna civil war, which had plagued his caliphate. His assassination led to political instability and the rise of the Umayyad Caliphate, based in Damascus, marking a significant shift in Islamic governance. The Umayyads expanded the Islamic Empire and established centralized authority, but their rule was not without challenges, including internal dissent and opposition. Despite this, the Umayyads maintained power for generations, shaping the political, cultural, and religious landscape of the Islamic world during their reign. This disunity and internal strife had already been foretold by the Prophet and extends to modern Muslims, although incomparable to the European churches. But, the year 661 CE represented a pivotal moment in Islamic history, marking the transition from the early period of the righteous caliphs to the rise of dynastic rule under the Umayyads. In 711 CE, Muslim forces, led by Tariq ibn Ziyad, crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and initiated the conquest of Spain, establishing Muslim rule in the region, known as Al-Andalus. This conquest, facilitated by internal divisions among the Visigothic rulers and local support, which helped the expansion to be non-violent, led to the establishment of a vibrant Muslim-ruled territory characterized by cultural, intellectual, and architectural achievements. Concurrently, Muslim expansion into the Indian subcontinent began, with Arab generals leading conquests in the region of Sind. These conquests marked significant milestones in Islamic history, extending the reach of Islamic civilization into new territories and fostering cultural exchange and interaction. The establishment of Muslim rule in Spain and India had profound and enduring effects on the history, culture, and society of these regions, shaping their development for centuries to come. In 732 CE, the Battle of Poitiers, also known as the Battle of Tours, took place in France. This significant historical event saw the forces of Charles Martel, the Frankish leader, defeating a Muslim army led by Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi, the governor of Al-Andalus. This battle is often considered a turning point in European history because it halted the northward advance of Islam from the Iberian Peninsula, thereby securing Christian control over Western Europe. Charles Martel's victory earned him the nickname the Hammer and significantly bolstered the power of the Frankish kingdoms. In 750 CE, the Abbasid dynasty overthrew the Umayyad Caliphate and moved the Islamic world's political center from Damascus to Baghdad, founding a new city. This marked the beginning of the Islamic Golden Age, as Baghdad became a cultural and scientific hub, drawing scholars and artists from around the world. The Abbasids' focus on scholarship and cultural inclusivity significantly shaped Islamic civilization and its global influence, leading to advancements in various fields such as mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and literature. This era, where people pondered on the Quran and Hadith, and have come up with the scientific method to investigate the world, is one that many modern Muslims wish to have again. By 1000 CE, Islam had continued to spread across the African continent, significantly influencing regions like Nigeria. This spread was largely facilitated by trade routes that connected northern Africa with the central regions of the continent. Nigeria, with its strategic location, served as a crucial trading liaison, enabling the exchange of goods, culture, and ideas. This period saw the rise of powerful Islamic kingdoms and city-states in Nigeria, which played a pivotal role in the spread of Islamic culture, learning, and religion throughout West Africa. In 1099 CE, European crusaders captured Jerusalem from Muslim rule during the First Crusade, marking a significant event in the history of the Crusades. This event led to the establishment of several crusader states in the region. However, the Muslim forces eventually responded, and after a series of conflicts and changing dynamics, they regained control of Jerusalem under the leadership of Saladin in 1187. This marked a pivotal moment in the Crusades, as it signified the restoration of Muslim control over the Holy City after nearly a century of Christian rule. The Crusades continued for several centuries, with various territories frequently changing hands between Christian and Muslim forces. By 1120 CE, Islam was continuing its spread throughout Asia, including Southeast Asia, where it made significant inroads. Malaysian traders played a crucial role in this expansion. As they interacted with Muslim merchants along trade routes, they were introduced to Islamic teachings. This exchange facilitated the gradual adoption of Islam in regions like the Malay archipelago. The spread of Islam in this area was characterized by a peaceful integration of the religion into local cultures and the establishment of Islamic sultanates, which further strengthened the influence of Islam in Southeast Asia. In 1299 CE, the earliest form of the Ottoman state was established in Anatolia, which is present-day Turkey. This marked the beginning of the Ottoman Empire, founded by Osman I, after whom the empire was named. Initially a small principality among many others in the region, the Ottomans rapidly expanded their territory through military conquests and strategic alliances. This growth set the stage for the Ottomans to become one of the most powerful empires in history, significantly influencing the political, cultural, and religious landscape of Europe, Asia, and Africa for centuries. From the 8th century until this moment, this period is known as the Golden Age of Islam, a period in which advancements in all sciences were made. These advancements are notably known to be what saved European literature and early philosophical and scientific findings, since much of it was under threat due to Byzantium persecution of intellects. But this was also a period of prosperity and progressiveness on many fronts, positioning Muslims as the scholars of the era. From mathematics and algorithms, to lenses and medicine, a tremendous amount of today's advances in sciences wouldn't have been made without them. In 1453 CE, the Ottoman Empire, led by Sultan Mehmed II, conquered Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. This event marked the end of the Byzantine Empire and a significant moment in history, symbolizing the shift from the medieval to the modern era. The fall of Constantinople also greatly enhanced the power and prestige of the Ottoman Empire. After the conquest, Mehmed II changed the city's name to Istanbul, which became the new capital of the Ottomans. Istanbul's strategic location bridged Europe and Asia, further solidifying the Ottoman Empire's role as a dominant power in both continents. Between 1453 and 1800, the Muslim world saw significant changes, with the Ottoman Empire expanding and reaching its zenith under Suleiman the Magnificent, dominating southeastern Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Concurrently, the Safavid dynasty established a powerful Shiite empire in Persia, setting it apart from the Sunni Ottomans and Mughals. In South Asia, the Mughal Empire flourished, blending Persian, Indian, and Islamic cultures, especially in architecture and administration. This era also witnessed more cultural and scientific advancements across the Muslim world from Asia to Western Africa. However, it was all about to end. By the end of the Age of Enlightenment in Europe, driven mostly by the Islamic advancement, Napoleon Bonaparte's 1798 invasion of Egypt significantly impacted the Muslim world, marking a shift in military, cultural, and political dynamics, and the beginning of the Muslim Empire's erosion and decay. This campaign exposed the Ottoman Empire's vulnerabilities and showcased European military advancements, prompting Muslim regions to reconsider their own structures. But it also prompted Europeans to increase colonial ambitions of divide and conquer. It also inspired leaders like Muhammad Ali Pasha to undertake European-like reforms in administration and education, changing perceptions of European powers from distant threats to immediate challenges, and emphasizing the need for westernization and a much-needed progress to resist European dominance. Despite the onset of European colonialism and trade challenges, which began to erode Muslim dominance in regions like Southeast Asia, the period concluded with the gradual decline of these great empires due to internal issues and external pressures from European powers, marking a shift in the global balance of power. Around 1800 CE, approximately 30% of Africans forced into slavery in the United States were Muslim. Between 1870 and 1924, significant events impacted the Muslim world and its diaspora. During this period, Muslim immigrants from the Arab world voluntarily migrated to the United States, a movement that continued until the Asian Exclusion Act of 1924 curtailed immigration from Asia. Concurrently, World War I, 1914 to 1918, concluded with the defeat and subsequent dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, marking the end of the last great Islamic empire. This period marked many significant simultaneous events like the Arab Revolt of 1916 to 1918 significantly contributed to the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, especially during World War I, encouraged and supported by the British, who promised independence. Arab leaders like Sharif Hussein bin Ali and his sons Faisal and Abdullah led this major uprising against Ottoman rule. Their efforts, aided by British officer T. Lawrence, notably weakened Ottoman control over Arab territories, hastening the empire's collapse until the World War's final blow. This culminated in the Treaty of Sèvres in 1920, which dismantled the Ottoman Empire and redistributed its lands among the victors and new Arab states as promised. However, many other regions were facing imminent imperialism. This also marks when the Palestinian injustice started. Many Muslim-majority regions in Africa and Asia also fell under European colonial rule, leading to significant disruptions and challenges to traditional Islamic lifestyles and religious practices, with some being threatened or destroyed by the colonial powers' influence and policies. But this divide-and-conquer strategy was the last straw that was needed to break the region and exploit its fortunes. Every resistance to the occupiers was labeled as terrorism, and a campaign of falsely attributing terrorism to Muslims has been throttled to legitimize any violence against the occupied and oppressed. In 1930 CE, the Nation of Islam was founded in the United States by Wallace D. Fard, also known as W. D. Fard. This movement was influenced by Islamic principles but also introduced several unique doctrines and practices. One of the significant innovations of the Nation of Islam was the elevation of Elijah Muhammad as a prophet, a position not recognized in mainstream Islam, which holds that Muhammad is the final prophet. The Nation of Islam also emphasized racial empowerment, economic self-sufficiency, and the identity of African Americans, positioning itself distinctively within the broader Islamic tradition and the American religious landscape. Saudi Arabia discovered oil in 1938 with the help of the West. This monumental discovery occurred at the Dammam oil field, and it marked the beginning of Saudi Arabia's transformation into one of the world's leading oil producers and newfound wealth. The discovery significantly impacted the nation's economy and rapidly accelerated its development and modernization. But it also gave way to numerous other Gulf regions to explore oil fields, marking a shift in the entire peninsula. From mere nomads or Bedouins to riches and competing in building tall buildings, also a prophecy by Prophet Muhammad. After years of plotting and the dispossession of Palestinian lands and properties, in 1948 CE, the State of Israel was established, leading to significant geopolitical changes in the Middle East. This event triggered the First Arab-Israeli War and resulted in a large number of Palestinian and Lebanese refugees. Many of these refugees, including both Muslims and Christians, fled to various countries, including the United States, ironically, the country that supports Zionism. The creation of Israel and the subsequent displacement of people intensified the regional tensions and had lasting impacts on the demographics, politics, and social dynamics of the Middle East and the diaspora communities around the world until the 21st century. Before and after that period, and ever since the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim world has become disunited and weak. A slumber ensues. The era of westernization commences, and limited progress or advances have been funded by any of the Muslim regions. It is as though the region has become stunned and shocked to the point of having nothing to offer but a superficial show of Western advancements, due to the displacement of many Asian, Muslim and Arab populations due to Western wars. In 1952 CE, the McCarran-Walter Act relaxes the U.S. ban on Asian immigration. Muslim students come to the U.S. from many nations, mostly from Palestine and Lebanon, but also other regions like Egypt. In 1965, the United States passed the Immigration and Nationality Act, also known as the Hart-Celler Act, which significantly revised immigration law. This act abolished the national origins quota system that had been in place since the 1920s, which favored European immigrants and restricted others, including those from Muslim-majority countries. The 1965 legislation opened up the United States to immigrants from Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, significantly increasing the number of Muslim immigrants. This change facilitated a more diverse and substantial Muslim population in the U.S., contributing to the growth of vibrant Muslim communities across the country. Due to the interest and advancement in the 20th century by the West, Muslims from all regions have started to lose interest in staying in regions where no progress or advancements seem to take place. 1975 CE Wallace D. Muhammad, the son of Elijah Muhammad, takes over leadership of the Nation of Islam after his father's death and brings most of his followers into mainstream Islam. He later created the Muslim American Society, which attracts many members, most of whom are African American. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution dramatically transformed Iran's political, social, and religious landscape. This revolution led to the overthrow of the Pahlavi monarchy under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran under the leadership of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. This event marked the first attempt in the post-World War era to create an Islamic state based on the principles of Shia Islam. The new government instituted significant reforms, including the implementation of Sharia law and the restructuring of political and social institutions to align with Islamic principles. The revolution had a profound impact not only on Iran but also on the broader Middle East, influencing Islamic political movements and altering the geopolitical dynamics of the region. But it also is one of the few who did not allow the Zionist takeover of their monetary system. Although Iran took the initiative to reunite Muslim regions, many have succumbed to what they have become accustomed to since colonial times, following the new masters. From 1980 to 2012, the Arab and Muslim world underwent significant changes, marked by the Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988, the rise of Islamist movements, and the Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. The period saw internal conflicts such as the Algerian Civil War, 1991 to 2002, and ongoing strife in Afghanistan, including the rise and fall of the Taliban and the US-led invasion post 9/11. The Middle East peace process, particularly the Oslo Accords in 1993, aimed to resolve Israeli-Palestinian tensions but faced numerous setbacks. The Arab Spring, 2010 to 2012, brought revolutionary uprisings demanding democratic reforms, leading to regime changes in some countries but civil wars and increased repression in others. Throughout these decades, the region experienced significant economic growth, particularly in oil-rich countries, alongside movements toward modernization and occasional conservative backlashes, all of which profoundly affected the geopolitical and social landscape of the Arab and Muslim world. In recent years, particularly starting around 2013, Saudi Arabia has embarked on significant social and economic westernization under its Vision 2030 initiative, led by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. These efforts include diversifying the economy away from oil dependency, enhance women's rights, and westernize various aspects of Saudi society. This period has seen changes such as allowing women to drive, reducing the powers of the religious police, and opening the country to entertainment and tourism that previously would have been considered inconsistent with strict interpretations of Islamic law. These changes represent a significant shift from some of the traditional Islamic values that have been preserved in the region since the time of the Prophet Muhammad, showcasing more regions shedding Islamic values in favor of westernization. In 2023, global awareness and discourse about Palestine and its cause were heightened due to massacres that Israel exacted on Palestinians. Reports and media coverage depicting the harsh conditions faced by Palestinians in the West Bank and the terrorist campaign by Israel brought the situation into sharper focus for the international community. This attention spurred debates and discussions across various platforms, highlighting the long-standing injustice Palestinians face due to the colonial outpost that is Israel and prompting calls for ceasefire and issuing arrest warrants against the aggressors. The Palestinian struggle has also highlighted the duality and selective application of international law that the West stands for, showcasing the severe hypocrisy in the world. Meanwhile, the Muslim world, particularly in the Gulf, has been numbed and distracted by festivities around the clock. While Jews and Western populations have risen against Zionism, any effort in the Arab and Muslims world face persecution. These leaders don't want to anger their masters. Due to the Palestinian plight, however, which overtook social media channels by storm, made many people around the world, mostly in the West, exposed to Islam once more, but in a different light, due to the steadfastness of Palestinians under the massacres they face, leading hundreds of thousands to read about Islam and starting a wave of conversion. 2024 c.e. thousands revert to Islam after knowing the real values that were concealed by the media, as they often portrayed Muslims and Islam as terrorists, when it is the exact opposite. Until mid-2024, the US and UK along with Germany has not taken any action to stop the terrorism of Israel, but instead doubled down on sending weapons to the Israeli terrorists, sparking many protests in universities around the world from Harvard to other notable universities like the Universities of California, as well as universities in Europe. Many more people have become more exposed to Islam than ever before, and much of the propaganda that cost billions of dollars to put Islam in a bad light has quickly dwindled in effect as more people shed their ignorance and pick up the holy book to read for themselves. However, not surprisingly, the Muslim world is paralyzed, with no significant action, other than political theatrics, when it comes to Israel. The Muslim world remains as disunited as ever. But it comes as no surprise since that is also a prophecy by Prophet Muhammad, that there will be many Muslims, from east to west, but they will be useless, like sea foam. We see how fearful the Muslim leaders are, as disgraceful as it seems. The people are doing everything they can away from their governments to get Palestinians justice. Will there ever be a comeback by the Muslim nations? And will they ever agree to reunite in strength and resources to advance? These are questions we ought to ask ourselves, since the only challenge to the war machine orchestrated by the West is an Islamic unity, and they have invested so much to keep these little regions focused on nationalism instead of a collective unity under the only laws they need. Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. If you liked this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up. This helps us a lot in creating more content you like. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet if you would like to watch more great content. Until next time.